Hello, I'm Geraldine and these are my novel opinions. Having done a rather belated roundup of December 2025, I'm now doing a rather belated top 10 of 2025. To be honest, I couldn't quite narrow them down to 10, so I've got 11 here and I'm going to start off with an honorary mention. I have kind of put them in some kind of order, but ask me tomorrow, they'd be in a different order. There might be different books included. It was quite a difficult choice to make. But anyway, my first one, which is the honorary mention, is The Modern Fairies by Clare Pollard. It was actually the first book I read last year, and it was a very pleasant surprise. I didn't know what I wanted to read, so I bought this on a whim because it sounded fun. And it was, but it was an awful lot more as well. It's set in the court of Louis XIV, where a group of intellectuals meet up on a regular basis to tell each other fairy stories. From these stories, the reader can draw parallels between the characters in them and the women of the court. It's very well written and it is great fun, and it's also quite raunchy as well. But I really enjoyed that. It was a good start to the year. At number 10, we've got The Original by Nell. This is the story of a young girl who's taken in rather grudgingly by her wealthy family, an uncle, I think. While she's there, she learns that she can copy famous paintings perfectly, and by doing this, she can make some kind of an income for herself secretly. At the same time, her cousin, which is the only one of the family who shows her any kindness at all, he goes missing and he's presumed dead. But then years later, he turns up again, although not everyone is convinced that he is who he says he is. So the original in the title can either refer to the paintings or the cousin. It's a very twisty-turny book. It's got lots of surprises in it, keeps you guessing, and it's great fun too. So I really enjoyed that one. In at number 9 is Raising Hare by Chloe Dalton. Now Chloe is a special advisor, and as a former civil servant, she and I are natural enemies. So part of me wanted to hate this book, but actually I loved it. The only slight difficulty I found was that I didn't think that she got across her emotions very well. Clearly they were there in her actions, but she didn't communicate them terribly well. But as I say, overall, it had me weeping both with joy and frustration at times. And the book as a whole was an absolute marvel. I thought it was a great book, and it's been quite rightly recognised as such. It's the account of how the author found a baby hare abandoned, and she went away and checked, and it said that she'd always leave them alone because their mothers will come back for them. But she went back to check and it hadn't been found, and so she took it in, and she had to learn pretty fast how to look after a hare, and most people told her that just wasn't possible. But she found it was without domesticating it. It's an absolutely fascinating tale. Sorry, there's a cat's ear just coming into shot there. It was an amazing book. I really enjoyed it. Number 8 is Endling by Reva. This is the story of a woman in Ukraine who is searching for a mate for a left-handed snail, the Endling of the title. To fund this research, she is taking part in bridal tourism in the country. But the book changes because while the author was writing it, Ukraine was invaded by Russia. And so the narrative changes style, and the author breaks the fourth wall and blends fact with fiction in a very dreamlike way in times, and I thought this was absolutely fascinating. It really worked, but it was also heartbreaking at times as well. I really enjoyed this book from that point of view. It was informative as well as fascinating in its narrative style. Number 7 is Audition by Katie Kitamura. This is the story of a woman who is contacted by a younger man who claims to be her son, although she knows that this can't possibly be the case. The book divides people a little bit because it's not always clear what's going on, and the reader is left to come up with their own interpretation of events. And I loved it. The prose is very sparse, so it gets you right into the centre of the action quickly. There's no messing about. But some people found the aspect a little bit too much for them. But no, I really enjoyed it. 6th on my list is Seascraper by Benjamin Wood. This is the story of a young man who harvests shrimp using very old-fashioned methods for the time. And then one day a man comes along and asks if he can pay him to be a location scout for a big Hollywood film. And he accepts, and while this is going on, he begins to think that maybe pursuing his dreams is a little bit more of a reality than he'd previously thought. And of course there could be other things going on as well. The landscape as well as the atmosphere of the book are bleak and cold, but also beautiful in places, and it's so well written. It's not a long book, but the amount it packs in is quite extraordinary. Number 5 on my list is We Pretty Pieces of Flesh by Colwill Brown. I almost gave up on this a couple of times. It's written in Doncaster dialect, which I didn't have too much trouble with, but I did have a few problems with connecting with the characters. But I'm so glad I persevered. It's about 3 teenage girls who are struggling with poverty, class and prejudice. Certainly by the end, I was utterly absorbed, and the ending itself, it completely tore my heart out. So yes, this is one that was well worth persevering with. Number 4 is The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller. This is about 2 couples who are caught in the winter of 62-63. And they're not just caught by the weather. I still feel absorbed in the atmosphere of this, the wintry atmosphere, even more so than the characters themselves. Again, I thought that it could have been edited a little bit, the first half of the book, which is more scene setting and character building, until you get into the real nitty-gritty of the story in the second half. But it still sits with me, this wintry, snowy atmosphere, and I absolutely adored it. In 3rd place is The Safekeep by Yael van der Wouden. This is the story of a woman who's forced to live with her brother's girlfriend, who she objects to very strongly. Of course, there's an awful lot more to it than that, but I won't say any more because it'll spoil it. Because this book knocked me off my feet, not once but twice, with twists that I hadn't seen coming. And I absolutely adored it. And it also taught me something that I didn't know, that happened in the Second World War, but sadly didn't surprise me when I found out. Number 2 is Muckle Flugga by Michael Pedersen. Now this is, for me, is one of those books that I just want to hug. I'm still in the world that it created. It's about a young man and his father who live in a lighthouse on the remote island of Muckle Flugga to the north of the Shetlands. And one day a lodger comes to stay with them with rather dark intentions originally, but all their lives are turned upside down when they all meet. And the atmosphere that's created by the author is extraordinary. You will really feel that you're on that bleak rock with them. So for that reason, I think it's a very deserved 2nd place. If you listen to podcasts, I think the latest edition of the Weirdos Book Club with Sarah Pascoe and Carrie Lloyd is about Muckle Flugga, and they interview Michael Pedersen in it. I haven't listened to it myself yet, but it's on my list. And finally, first place had to go to Mother Naked by Glen James Brown. I adored this book from beginning to end. It's about a travelling minstrel who turns up to a gathering of bigwigs to tell them a story. He stepped in at the last minute because the booked minstrel couldn't make it. Now he comes along and he's telling them the story of the Fell Wraith. But as with all good stories, there are plenty of hidden messages for the audience. It's a very dark book, but also very funny. And as I say, I adored it from page 1 to the final page at the end. So that's my top 10. Do let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. I'm just as interested to hear if you hated them as if you loved them. And I'm looking forward to what 2026 brings. I hope, even if it's half as good as 2025, I'll be pleased. Anyway, I will see you in a few weeks for my January roundup. Bye.